In recent months, conversations around Prince Harry's speaking engagements have shifted noticeably. Reports circulating within professional event circles suggest that his current keynote fees are far lower than the extraordinary sums once associated with his name. Shortly after stepping back from royal duties, the Duke of Sussex was considered one of the most in-demand speakers in the world, a figure whose personal story, royal background, and global recognition could command premium prices. Today, insiders say the market has cooled dramatically. According to individuals familiar with corporate event planning, Harry's appearance fees now sit closer to those of established public figures, rather than rare, once-in-a-generation attractions. The change reflects more than simple economics. It signals how public curiosity evolves over time. 5 years ago, audiences were captivated by the drama of a senior royal leaving palace life. Now that narrative is familiar, and familiarity tends to reduce exclusivity. What makes this development particularly noteworthy is not merely the size of the fee itself, but what it suggests about brand longevity. Celebrity influence often follows a predictable arc. A dramatic event creates intense demand, demand stabilizes, and eventually interest plateaus. For Harry, the initial surge of global attention following his departure from royal life created unprecedented opportunities. As those opportunities matured, the novelty inevitably diminished. Observers also point out the irony that many of Harry's speaking topics center on privacy, digital responsibility, and mental health, themes that contrast with the intensely public nature of his own journey. Through interviews, documentaries, and his memoir, he has shared deeply personal experiences with audiences worldwide. Supporters argue that this openness destigmatizes difficult conversations. Critics counter that it complicates messaging about personal boundaries. Either way, the contrast keeps him in headlines. Public perception plays a decisive role in the speaking circuit. Conference organizers do not simply purchase expertise, they purchase attention, prestige, and positive association. When a speaker's presence guarantees favorable coverage, fees rise. When coverage becomes mixed or unpredictable, planners negotiate more cautiously. In Harry's case, appearances still generate headlines, but not always the kind that enhance an event's reputation. Another factor shaping demand is repetition. Sources who attend multiple conferences say his speeches often revisit familiar themes: media scrutiny, personal resilience, charitable initiatives, and the impact of digital environments on mental health. While these subjects remain important, audiences that follow public figures closely may feel they have heard the core story before. Novelty is a powerful currency in public speaking, and maintaining it is difficult for anyone in the spotlight. Financial realities also influence how frequently high-profile figures accept engagements. Maintaining a large residence, security arrangements, travel, and staff requires substantial income. For public figures living outside institutional structures, these expenses are entirely personal responsibilities. Without official roles or taxpayer support, revenue streams must come from private ventures, partnerships, and appearances. Comparisons to Prince Andrew occasionally surface in commentary, though the circumstances differ significantly. Andrew's controversies stem from legal and reputational crises, whereas Harry's situation revolves primarily around career transition and public image. Still, analysts sometimes draw parallels in how former working royals seek relevance and financial independence outside palace frameworks. Unlike Andrew during his active years, Harry operates without palace advisors, official duties, or institutional guardrails. That independence allows freedom, but also removes protective structures that once shaped royal public life. Every decision, from business partnerships to public statements, now reflects directly on him rather than the monarchy as a whole. Relationships within the royal family remain another variable influencing public perception. His connection to King Charles III and Prince William continues to attract attention, particularly when discussions turn to reconciliation or future roles. Royal dynamics fascinate global audiences, and even small developments can revive interest in Harry's activities. Meanwhile, life in California represents a stark contrast to traditional royal existence. In Montecito, he and Meghan Markle have pursued independent projects spanning media production, philanthropy, and business ventures. Some initiatives have succeeded, others have struggled to gain traction. Such mixed results are common for entrepreneurs, but for globally recognized figures, every outcome is scrutinized. Media partnerships illustrate this volatility. Large streaming or audio deals can generate enormous anticipation, yet success ultimately depends on audience engagement. If projects fail to resonate, companies pivot quickly. This dynamic affects not only income, but also perceptions of market value. Beyond finances, observers note subtle shifts in Harry's public demeanor during recent appearances. Some speeches have included visible emotion, reflecting the deeply personal topics he addresses. Psychologists suggest that discussing trauma or loss in public settings can be both cathartic and taxing. Whether interpreted as vulnerability or strain, these moments humanize him, but also fuel speculation. Homesickness is another recurring theme mentioned by commentators. Having grown up immersed in British institutions and traditions, living abroad inevitably reshapes identity. Reports occasionally surface suggesting he misses aspects of life in the United Kingdom, including long-standing relationships and cultural familiarity. However, rebuilding those connections would require navigating complex personal and public dynamics. At the same time, Meghan's potential future projects, including the possibility of a memoir, generate ongoing discussion. Such a book could offer her perspective on royal life and the years since stepping back from official duties. From a publishing standpoint, interest would likely be enormous. From a family standpoint, it could complicate already sensitive relationships. Ultimately, Harry's speaking fees symbolize more than a simple market adjustment. They represent the challenge of sustaining relevance after a dramatic life transition. The world's attention moves quickly, and maintaining a global spotlight requires constant reinvention. Through advocacy, media projects, or public appearances, he continues searching for a long-term role that balances purpose, privacy, and financial stability. The trajectory is not necessarily decline, it may simply be normalization. Moving from extraordinary demand to steady professional footing is a path many public figures experience. The question is, what comes next? A reinvention that restores widespread enthusiasm, or a quieter phase focused on targeted impact rather than mass attention?
While speaking fees capture headlines, they represent only one piece of a much larger puzzle surrounding Prince Harry's post-royal life. The broader issue is sustainability, how a globally recognized figure builds a long-term identity outside the institution that originally defined him. When Harry and Meghan stepped back from royal duties in 2020, they entered a unique position. They retained worldwide name recognition, but relinquished official roles, funding, and obligations. This created both opportunity and uncertainty. Without palace structures, they were free to pursue independent ventures, yet success depended entirely on public reception. Early interest was immense. Major interviews, documentary deals, and publishing projects drew record audiences. Much of that attention stemmed from unprecedented access to royal perspectives, rarely shared publicly. Over time, however, the novelty of those revelations faded. Audiences accustomed to constant updates began looking for new narratives rather than revisiting the same themes. The entertainment industry is particularly unforgiving in this regard. Streaming platforms prioritize content that attracts sustained viewership. Projects connected to the Sussexes generated significant initial curiosity, but long-term engagement proved harder to maintain. Executives evaluate success not only by launch numbers, but by continued relevance months later. Financial analysts note that high-profile lifestyles require diversified income sources. Speaking engagements, media production, book deals, and philanthropic fundraising all contribute to a complex revenue mix. If one stream slows, others must compensate. This pressure can influence which opportunities are pursued and how frequently public appearances occur. Security costs remain one of the largest ongoing expenses. As a former senior royal and military veteran, Harry maintains protection arrangements that are far more extensive than those of typical celebrities. Funding such measures privately adds substantial financial weight to any budget. Public perception also affects commercial partnerships. Brands prefer ambassadors whose reputations enhance their image without generating controversy. When public opinion is polarized, companies may hesitate, even if recognition is high. This dynamic influences endorsement opportunities and collaborative ventures. Another element shaping the couple's future is their philanthropic foundation. Through charitable initiatives, they aim to position themselves as advocates for social causes, rather than traditional celebrities. Success in this arena depends less on popularity and more on measurable impact. If projects produce tangible results, credibility grows, regardless of media narratives. Family dynamics continue to hover in the background. Any sign of reconciliation with King Charles or Prince William would instantly transform public perception and likely increase demand for appearances. Conversely, ongoing distance maintains a sense of unresolved tension that can overshadow other achievements. Observers sometimes speculate about a potential return to the United Kingdom in some capacity. While a full restoration of working royal status appears unlikely, ceremonial roles or occasional participation in national events are occasionally discussed in media commentary. Such scenarios remain hypothetical, but demonstrate how strongly the public associates Harry with his original role. Meanwhile, Meghan's independent ambitions, from lifestyle ventures to media projects, contribute to the couple's evolving identity. Her perspective, experiences, and professional background differ from Harry's, creating both complementary strengths and strategic challenges. Aligning individual goals with a shared public image requires careful coordination. Psychological factors should not be overlooked. Transitioning from a life defined by duty to one defined by self-direction can be disorienting. For someone raised within a highly structured institution, the absence of predetermined roles may create both freedom and uncertainty. Public scrutiny intensifies that adjustment as every decision becomes subject to global commentary. Despite criticism, Harry retains significant goodwill in areas such as veterans advocacy, mental health awareness, and charitable work. Initiatives like the Invictus Games demonstrate his ability to mobilize international support for meaningful causes. These achievements suggest that his long-term legacy may depend less on commercial success and more on sustained humanitarian impact. Looking ahead, reinvention appears to be the central challenge. Public figures who successfully transition after major life changes often adopt new identities: entrepreneur, philanthropist, commentator, or creative producer. For Harry, determining which role resonates most authentically with both himself and the public will shape the next decade. The decline in speaking fees, therefore, should not be viewed in isolation. It is one indicator within a broader narrative of adaptation. Market value fluctuates, but reputation, purpose, and influence evolve over time. If future projects capture imagination or deliver measurable benefits, demand could rise again. Ultimately, the story is still unfolding. Prince Harry's journey outside royal life remains one of the most closely watched personal transformations of the modern era. Whether he ultimately achieves stability, renewed prominence, or a quieter form of influence will depend on choices made in the coming years and on how audiences respond to them. What is certain is that global fascination has not disappeared. It has simply shifted. Instead of watching a prince within palace walls, the world now observes a man attempting to define himself beyond them.